So welcome everyone. Glad to see everybody here, and welcome Una, who's going to be our guest speaker for part of this. I know it's late over there. Una's in Kenya, and so she's 7 hours different than I am. I said to her, "It's really late there," and she said, "No, it's really early." So it's early in the day. It's 1 minute into the new day. So welcome Una. Every time you come on, you learn so much, and every time you and I talk, I learn so much. So I'm thrilled that you would come on and could come on and share some of your wisdom with us. Una has been around the world, I don't know how many times, a lot of times, and been to all manner of places and learned all kinds of things, including firewalking, boogie busting, all kinds of things that I am completely, it's a mystery to me, a mystery. And no, I am not learning to firewalk. Anyway, Una, I am going to turn this over to you for a bit. I wanted to say hello to everyone. Welcome, welcome. And would you like to kind of give us a little idea of what you are going to talk about?
Yes, well, first of all, it's wonderful to see so many faces that I remember and that I recognize, just sort of looking through it all. I see Rob and I see Candace, and the screen is really too small, but yes. Anyway, hello to everybody. Thank you for having me on. And yes, I was always interested in what is this world about? What are we really doing here? What is this body, and what is the part of the body that's not the body? And so I have been, yes, around the world several times, and I was in 2001. I was happily involved with a Mayan lineage of healers. I was spending a lot of time with them and initiated into them, and all was well. Then one day, I was living in Germany at the time in a village south of Munich. A woman said to me, "There is this Eskimo in the village and he's giving private sessions. He's a shaman, and you absolutely need to go see him." And I really wasn't that interested. And I figured, well, I'll give him a call. He's probably booked out. Well, he decided to take me at 7 a.m. So I had no excuse to not go. Anyway, that took me to him pointing at me and saying, "I want you as my assistant." And so I spent 7 years on that journey. And I am purposely saying Eskimo because he is not an Inuit. He insisted on not being called an Inuit. He says the Inuit are one small political group somewhere in Canada. And he is an Eskimo. So I put together a little presentation. Just to remember some topics. So that's how I met the Angakok. Angakok is the name for shaman in the far north. In 2007 and in 2009, there was a prophecy that had been handed down. And I'll be talking about that more later on. In 2009, we did something that was absolutely inconceivable. We created a ceremony, a celebration up in Greenland, north of the Arctic. Originally, the Smithsonian Institute went there and was going to create that ceremony and finance it. They pulled out. They said, "You can't have 100 people up there. You can't feed them. There's not enough place for them to live and have accommodation and all of that." Well, after the Smithsonian Institute pulled out, the American Indian Institute went up there to Greenland. They looked at it And they said, nope, can't do it. We won't do it. And then another group came in. They pulled out, they had glossy brochures. They pulled out 12 weeks before the ceremony was supposed to happen. And somehow something just came through me. And I said, well, I'll do it. I had no money. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the culture. And we pulled it off. Now, Anakasa is this shaman's, this Angakok's grandmother. And she was a famous healer shaman all over Greenland. And she was interviewed by her son, and he recorded everything. So the teachings that I'll be talking about today were recordings from the Angakok's grandmother. Yes, and in 2013, I started seeing certain things that told me that I had to move on. So one of the things that I learned is never look away. Always look at it. And there is something about an automatic looking away when there's something there that's not supposed to happen or not allowed to happen. And one example, for example, is there's people hugging. So two people hug. Notice how you automatically look away instead of looking straight at what is that energy that's actually happening between these two people. We look away. And that's one of the patterns that I saw where I couldn't live with that anymore. Anyway, I went out and started doing my own teachings and working worldwide and so on. Now, what I want to give you is a sense of where these teachings come from. This land called Kalallit Nunaat. It's a land that's extremely remote and harsh. Feel into that remoteness, that harshness, that land that is vast and silent. You know how the snow creates silence. Here's a map of Greenland. And you see that all this white stuff is always ice. And then where the brown is, there's a few villages. Now Greenland here, you can see it goes from Oslo all the way to Morocco. That's how large this place is. And it has a population of 50,000, which is about the population of a football stadium. So only 50,000 people in this huge land. And on the east side of Greenland, there are only two settlements. There's this one here, Itokotormiit, to which I've been 3 times. And there's this one here that has a little more inhabitants. This is only a military base. It just has about 5 people there, maybe. There's a few settlements here. And then here, that's the main part. That's Nuuk is the capital. And Kangerlussuaq is where the Americans built an international airport so that big planes could land. This is where we created that sacred fire ceremony, fulfilling the prophecy. Kangerlussuaq, the airport, the turning point for everything here. Now imagine there are no roads between the villages because it's snow. Basically, there's no roads. The only road that was ever built was in Kangerlussuaq by VW so that they could test drive their cars. And it's just a few miles long, a few kilometers long. So you're in this land where the only way to move from one settlement to another is by a little plane, a helicopter, or a boat sometimes, depending on the state of the ice. So also Greenland is, they say, the only land that's known peace. There has never been war in Greenland. There were a few skittish things involving one or two soldiers way up in the north. And the people do have ordinary fights in families and so on. But basically, it's a land of peace. And the experience you have there, it's everything is blue and white. It really calms down the mind. There's also no imprint. Imprint meaning every country you go to has a sort of a sense, a feeling of, it just feels different whether you're in Texas or in New York. It's a very different feeling. There's like a political imprint and maybe another overlay too. There's nothing like that in Greenland. And so your mind expands. It's just that vastness and that silence. And you're only seeing blue and white. And you're really not smelling much either. It really settles you down and you come home to yourself. Ice everywhere. Many, many different words for ice. This is how we got to Ittoqqortoormiit. The last bit was by helicopter. So every nail, all the oranges, potatoes, guns, whatever it is transported there by helicopter, except for maybe once or twice a year there's a boat. They store windows just in case a window breaks at some point for 300 people. Yeah, this is Ittoqqortoormiit, the village of 300 people. Nothing ever gets lost. There's nowhere it can go. Also on the East Coast, we did dog sled rides there. And dog sled rides, as you can see, nothing grows there. There's no vegetables, there's no fruit unless you fly it in, and then it's been on the way for 3 days or so, and it doesn't look as fresh anymore. There's no lettuce. So the only food they have really is the food from the ocean and the food from the land, meaning animals. And so they're hunters. And we went there and took 3 groups there. We went there and went out with the hunters on 3-day, 3-night trips into the middle of nothing. And you're relying on those dogs, you're dependent on the dogs to know when a polar bear is approaching. There's no bushes for when you need to go to the toilet. There's all sorts of new things you learn there. We had tents, and once in a while there'd be a tiny little hut for hunters. You don't worry about makeup or anything like that. This is the Angakok and me. And the dogs will only pull for about 5 hours maximum. But you're busy all the time wondering where you're going, trying to stay on top of the sledges and the weather. And you start to look like this. This is Nomi Baumgartel, who is a famous photographer. She just won a prize in Germany. You can see, it's rough, it's harsh. This place is very, very remote, and it shows on you. And now we're moving over to the West Coast, where we did the fire ceremony, the sacred fire ceremony. And you can see that we had our tents on the permafrost, and this is what they call the big ice, the big inland ice. And every time I went there, I could see how it had melted further. All this water here in front comes from the carving of the ice, the melting of the ice, and the ice is melting from above and below, from the earth. So yes, we had elders there. We went there with tents. Everybody had to bring a tent. Everybody had to work and pay. This is Ataswak holding a speech, one of the local elders. And just to show you, there wouldn't have been food for 100 people. We were over 100. So they gave us special permission to also hunt in August. And that's what we lived on. And because she's the elder, she's 80 years old, she got to have the heart of the muskox. Okay, so the spirituality of the Kalallit. What I find that because of this harshness and this remoteness, that these are the purest teachings that I've come across. It's everywhere else you go, there's so many people and so many transformations over the generations that the teachings are not as pure as what I've learned there. They are also, their language is very, very different from anything else in the world. And they are very particular about the exact wording. So Anakasa, the grandmother of the shaman, those recordings, he listened to them over and over and over again until he knew the recordings by heart. And then he translated them into English. And I wrote those teachings down because they have to have that exact wording. And one of the wordings, for example, when it's man with a capital M, it means human. It doesn't just mean the male, it means man and woman and children, anyone who's human. And one of the common phrases also that is very different from what we use is you and I. And they like to say you and I, for example, when somebody needs to be reminded of that we, let's say, don't steal, or we don't do this or don't do that. Everybody is gathered together. And then the wording is always you and I, we have to remember to be uplifting, to be honest, to be in integrity. Another phrase is the spokesman of the man who made us. So the spokesman of the man who made us, maybe it can be translated as a prophet in our minds. His name is Dornak. Dornak. And he was seen as the one who gave the people, who told the people who they are. The people are the people of Kalallit Nunaat. The people, they say, they didn't know who they are. They knew they were not the eagle, they were not the fox, they were not the whale, but they didn't know who they are. And so the spokesman of the man who made us came and gave the people the teachings of the circle. And so the teachings of the circle are really, really important to them because it differentiates us from the animal world. And then very often you will also hear the ancient ones said, the ancient ones. So this is not the elders, and it's not the old ones. It's the ancient ones. And it was never explained to me who the ancient ones are. But after spending 7 years traveling around the world with him and translating, I was his translator into German. The sense I get is that it comes from a time beyond time. It could be ETs, it could be, they're not necessarily human like we're human, is my sense. And my other sense, my personal reading is that why would anybody live in such a land? So remote, so harsh, so difficult to live there. Unless they wanted to stay spiritually pure and away from places where they couldn't live that pure spirituality that they were given by the spokesman of the man who made us. So let's look at the circle, which is so important to them. Of all created things, the only thing that will disappear in front of our eyes is smoke. Thus, we will invite the smoke to come to us, and the smoke will lift away all the defilements we carry. Of all created things, the only thing that will disappear in front of our eyes is smoke. And I would hear that over and over again as we smudge. And as we're being smudged, you've got your eyes closed and you're sensing and feeling how that smoke is lifting away all your worries, all your anger, your fear, anything you don't need anymore. And sometimes we would make that ceremony even longer, and we would take the smoke and hold it into our eyes and say, may I only see good things. And to our mouth, may I only speak good things. To our ears, may I only hear good things. The circle which has no beginning nor ending, in which we all belong. So you can hear that over and over again, the circle which has no beginning nor ending, in which we all belong. What does that really mean? It means then when we create a circle, he used to insist that we are in a circle and not like you see here, this is in Itokotomit in the school. People are standing outside of the circle. And I used to like doing that. I used to like being outside of the circle so that I could observe what's happening. But I had to step into the circle and be part of the circle. So it means that we have to be part of life. Every one of us, it's an obligation. Each one of us is important. The circle which has no beginning nor ending, in which we all belong. No matter who you are, no matter what you think, we all belong. And they say the beauty of the circle is that we cannot see each other's backs. And the strength of the circle is that we can only see each other's beauty. And this is something I would hear a lot at sunrise. There would be sunrise ceremonies, and the beauty of the circle is that we cannot see each other's backs. We're standing in a circle and nobody is behind somebody else. We're all standing there together in the circle. And that we can only see each other's beauty. And then when you look at that at sunrise or with a fire, the faces are aglow. And it creates a beauty within us. Just being around a fire or being there at sunrise, that beauty in the faces. The kilaut is the drum of the Eskimo. And it's made of driftwood because obviously there's no trees growing in Greenland. It's made of driftwood, it's round, thin, and has skin over it. And mostly it is used, the rim is hit with a stick. This, you can see how thin the rim is. You don't touch the skin. This one's got, this is not skin, this is some kind of material. So there's a handle, there's the circle, the rim, and then there's the skin that you do not hit. You hit the rim. And the teaching goes that the kilaut, the wind drum, is an instrument from the great sky. Only the Creator holds the handle. And every time he touches upon the rim, he hears the heartbeat of mankind. So the kilaut is round, and it represents that circle that we just talked about. That circle that is so important, in which we all belong. And yes, there is a handle which is not part of the circle, but that handle is only held by the Creator. Only the Creator holds the handle. And if the drum sounds good, then the Creator knows that all is well with mankind. The drum representing the heartbeat of mankind. So the sound that comes from the kilaut, the wind drum, tells the Creator how well we are doing. And the kilaut was given to us by the great sky. Now that's another one we'll get into, the great sky. And then, of course, there are many teachings about the heart. The easiest ice to be melted is the ice on the ground. The hardest ice to be melted is the ice in the heart of man. And I think we all know that sometimes our heart just freezes. I would say that before I entered that circle, I didn't even really have a sense of where the heart, of the feeling of the heart. Yes, I knew logically that the heart is here, but to actually sense it, to actually feel it. The hardest ice to be melted is the ice in the heart of man. Only by melting the ice in the heart of man will man have a chance to change and begin using his knowledge wisely. And here we have a combination of the words knowledge, which we usually associate with the mind, and wisely, which we associate with the heart. And in Greenlandic, in Kalallit Nunaat, there's one word that incorporates knowledge and wisdom. And there was just no English word that would express what that means. Only by melting the ice in the heart of man will man have a chance to change and begin using his knowledge wisely. So if we don't open our hearts or melt that ice in our heart, we cannot even change. And we have no way of being wise. The most beautiful smile is a smiling heart. And we all know the difference between a grin and a smile. And so when we touch our heart and we smile from there, what a different feeling to when we just smile in the face. Ah, yes, stay in your heart and all will be well. When I first came to these teachings, I thought, I didn't think much of it. But over the years, I realized that the meaning of this could possibly be very, very, very deep. So if we think of some of these teachings having been passed down over eons as a help to get us through difficult times, stay in your heart and all will be well. We can apply it to individual situations, but we could also apply it to possible shifts in the Earth's magnetic field. The heart is an electromagnetic organ. It's the strongest electromagnetic organ that we have. And if that electromagnetic field of the earth changes or even breaks down, then to stay alive, we need to be in our heart. The magnetism in our heart needs to be fully operational. It might actually be a survival thing to be in our hearts. Every time you talk to your heart, she will always speak back. Now is the time for you and I to learn to listen to our heart. And this is also very interesting as I listened to this over and over. That it's actually very healthy to hear your own heartbeat, wherever that might be. You might hear it, you might actually hear your heartbeat where the heart is. You might hear it if you listen to your pulse or feel it. Being aware of your heartbeat all over your body is extremely healing. Here we come to the prophecies. This is the one that was passed down for centuries and nobody knew what it meant. The ancient ones say that one day when the world needs it most, the sacred fire will come home to the people on the top of the world. So even the Angakok's grandmother, she would pass this on and she didn't know what it meant. Now in Greenland, because there's no trees, you cannot make fire from wood. You make fire from seal oil. That's the only way to have light, the only way to have heat, the only way to cook, by hunting seals. And what has been happening since 1969. In 1969, two young hunters walked from the village on the shore to the inland ice. And what they would do is they would place their hand against the ice wall and they would pray. And that ice wall is, it's tall. And this was in January and it was minus 30 degrees. So way below freezing point. And they looked up and they could feel a trickle of water coming down. And that, of course, should not be. When they came home from hunting, they told their elders, and the elders said, "Oh, you've had too much beer." And then when the elders went out hunting, they did the same, and they noticed that water trickling down. And they realized there's something really, really amiss with the earth. So the ancient ones say that one day when the world needs it most, the sacred fire, the fire that's made from wood, the sacred fire will come home to the people on the top of the world. So this has been known for eons that there will be trees growing. And when I was there were trees. There were spindly little trees about the height of a tall person. But there were trees growing upright, not along the ground, but upright. So this is what we celebrated. This is what the Smithsonian and the American Indian Institute decided they couldn't do. And we had shamans and priests from all over the world. We had the top Siberian shaman come in. We had priests from the Shinto tradition in Japan. We had Maori, we had Sangomas from South Africa, from the center of the Amazon. from, of course, North and South America. We had 2 tents brought in by the very last boat. We did have more than 100 people. This is where the sacred fire was made. And here it is. Now here it is, the old ones, not the ancient ones. The old ones say that one day when the rock hard big ice becomes so soft that you can no longer leave your handprint on it, this would be the sign that Mother Earth is in great turmoil. And the Angakok would say, my mother Anna Anaki said she never thought she would witness the prophecy being fulfilled in her lifetime. And of course, now we know that the scientists have found that Greenland once did have trees. They dug that deep into the ice. So the scientists later on confirmed what the prophecies were saying. One day when the rock hard big ice becomes so soft that you can no longer leave your handprint on it, this would be the sign that Mother Earth is in great turmoil. Such a powerful sight of beauty will in a moment be changed into a fury of winds of change. That means a lot when you're in that land that's so vast and you're out in the middle of nowhere, far, far away from a village and a house. And there's a snowstorm. And you don't see where you're going. You can only go by the dogs and the hunters and trust, faith. The ancient ones say, many will die, many more will barely have a life. Few will have a living. Again, something I heard over and over and over again. The ancient ones say, many will die. Many more will barely have a life. Meaning that their life is very difficult. Let's just put it that way. Few will have a living. Few will truly live. The ancient ones say, the calendar as we know it is coming to an end. We don't know yet. I don't have an interpretation for that yet, except for that I do feel that time is speeding up and something's different. Everybody can interpret that and we'll see where it goes. The ancient ones say, the calendar as we know it is coming to an end. And I do think calendar has something to do with time. The ancient ones say one day the great sea eagle will begin to descend from the mountains of ice, wafting with her a fresh scent of knowledge with wisdom. So there's something new coming in. Wafting with her a fresh scent of knowledge with wisdom. Again, that word that means knowledge and wisdom combined. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, nor from there to here. Nay, the greatest distance in the existence of man is from his mind to his heart. Unless he conquers this distance, he can never learn to soar like an eagle and realize the immensity within. And sometimes he would put his hand on your heart and he says, you are far greater within than the great sky above. We look up to the stars and we look at that space. But when we go within, we are far greater. And we can realize that immensity when we connect our mind and our heart. Unless he conquers this distance, he can never learn to soar like an eagle and realize the immensity within. You are worth coming home to. This is something I heard very often when somebody was having doubts and feeling sad, depressed. He would say to people, you are worth coming home to. Come home to yourself. The prayer for the body is food. The food for the body is a chant. The food for the soul is a prayer, talking to the Creator. And so you and I will become whole. It's important to chant, and it's important to pray and talk to the Creator to become whole. And intention is so important. He says, whatever you do, do it with intention. Don't eat to be full, eat to be strengthened. So it matters which intention you put into what you do. If you eat so that you're full, that's a very different feeling from when you eat to gain strength. Everything depends on you and how you relate. How do I relate to the world around me? How do I relate to other beings, to other people, to other humans? All depends on me and how I relate. And then we could start thinking, how do I relate? What happens when there's issues between me and another person? How did I relate there? And so often he would say, never fall in love or you will get hurt. And he would take a plastic bottle and he would let it drop to show that it hurts when you fall. Never fall in love or you will get hurt. Become in love. The hardest thing to learn is to unlearn what you already know. Goodness, have I found that true. I thought I knew so much. And then 2020 comes along. And I had to unlearn so many things I thought I knew. This is a beautiful one. My way is not the only way. Anakasa, his grandmother, would say that over and over again when people were feeling this is right or we should do things this way. She would just calmly say, my way is not the only way. And that would give other people permission to do their things in their way. When something stops growing, it dies. So you can't stay static. You have to either grow or die. And what that means for our lives is we need to constantly grow, learn more, keep on learning, keep on doing something different, travel, whatever, but keep on growing. That'll keep you alive. like time itself standing still in front of you, awaiting the choices you're about to make and which path to follow. That moment when time is standing still and you're about to make a choice. So when time stands still, you actually are almost like at 0 point, and you have all the possibilities. And time is awaiting the choices you are about to make, which path to follow. And if you don't have that split second of time standing still, what he said you would do is you would be at the highest point of your life and you would look out at your paths. And then most likely you would choose the path of the thumb. And that's why our thumbs are bent back, because it would lead us right back to where we were. And we'd be doing the same thing over and over, unless we take that moment of time standing still and choosing a different path. Never follow someone. You will only see his back. And he would say, if you're following somebody and they stumble in front of you, you're also going to stumble. And you're not going to see because that person is standing in front of you. So never follow someone, but walk together. And then, as we walk together, you will see something, I will see something, and we will see together, and we'll see more together than when we walk one behind another, one person following another. One single plant started with one single seed. When you find the seed of a berry, you hold in your hand a berry bush, which can sustain thousands of people with this single seed. That is the power. So we might think ourselves, we're just a seed. But that seed that we are is really much bigger. Our power is much bigger than this seed that we are. And as we grow, we can sustain thousands of people, each one of us. Lift up your spirit above the present so that you can look with eyes of faith into your own future. Anakasa, my grandmother, says that your future is powerfully beautiful if only you could learn to see it. And just today, I spent some time with a person who was heavily depressed and was not coming out of her room because something had happened. And when we spend time with a person who is at a low point, we can help them to lift their spirit above the present of whatever's happening, so that they can look with eyes of faith into your own future, eyes of faith. And your future is powerfully beautiful if only you could learn to see it. This is Ataswak, the 80-year-old elder, and Akarak, just a few years younger, whom I actually took on a 5-day road trip to the Amazon jungle, and we stayed there 10 days and then took them back to Greenland. And what she said, coming from the ice and never having left the ice, Greenland, and then she arrives in the jungle. What she saw was that you have everything you need here to sustain you. You're able to have a roof over your house, you have food, you have everything you need. Let's skip that. Let's go to spiritual responsibility. The Sweetgrass teaching is in the book I wrote, The Brilliance of Your Feelings, which you can get on Amazon. So I don't need to recap that here. But let's go to the spiritual responsibility, which is a teaching that has been extremely useful, helpful to me when I interact with other people, other races, other colors. The ancient ones say that in the east, where the sun rises, she is always yellow. And so we have the yellow people. And their spiritual responsibility is to take care of Mother Earth. But they have not done good because they were the first to rape Mother Earth, mining for minerals and precious stones. And still, the yellow people are the ones who do the most mining. When the sun shines highest upon us, it is always white. And so we have the white people. Their spiritual responsibility is to unite everyone when the time comes. But they too have not done good, for they have colonized the people. So I thought long and hard about this, about my spiritual responsibility as a white person to unite. Why is it that the white people have this responsibility to unite? We can see it really because we created airplanes and trains and boats, and we are sitting in ashrams, and we're sitting at sacred fires, and we're sitting in sweat lodges. We write cookbooks with food from all over the world. It is in us to unite the world, but we have not done good. And it's to unite the world when the time comes. So there's a general sense out there that the white people have lost their spirituality. And what I've come to understand is that that's not so. Our DNA has been timed for these times that we're in right now. That this is where our responsibility is springing into action, where we need to unite the people, because we're really good at organizing. We're really good at creating events. We're really good at traveling all around the world. When the sun shines highest upon us, there is no shadow amongst us. Then there is no difference amongst us. And in the West, where the sun sets, she is always red. And so we have the red people. And their spiritual responsibility is to bring peace to the people. But they too have not done good, for they bicker amongst themselves about whose ceremony is better than the other. So when we talk here about to bring peace to the people, it's about bringing peace to people's hearts. And that we do with ceremonies. But as long as the red people are bickering about whose ceremony is better, whether the women should be allowed in the sweat lodge or not, or sit on which side, or first the men or the women, all these things, all that bickering takes away from the ceremonies that would be bringing peace to all of us in the world. Then at night, when the sun goes down, it is dark. And so we have the black people. And their spiritual responsibility is to ensure safety at night. But they have not done good either. For all over the world, we lock our doors at night. Unless we grow up to our spiritual responsibility and become worthy of that, we cannot learn to melt the ice in the heart of man for times and times to come. And the Angakok's grandmother would say to him, "You are as red as the setting of the sun." And so for whatever color you are, You are as yellow as the rising of the sun. Or you are as white as the sun at midday. Or you are as black as the darkness at night. And take that in. Feel that for yourself as you compare yourself to the sun in that position. And we'll come to an end with the prayer. I walk to the top of the mountain to pray. And imagine that mountain, a nice mountain in Greenland. Here I am at the top of the world, looking at the vastness surrounding me. I feel very small, like a speck within the greatness of creation. The Great One, the Creator, will He see me? Will He hear me? Then I realize I am not alone. The minerals are here with me, but they are asleep. I know this because when I walk on them, I do not see their beauty. They stay asleep. I need to awaken them so that they can show their powerful beauty to the Creator and pray with me. The plants are here with me, but they are asleep. I know this because as I walk amongst them, they are not blooming. I need to awaken them so they can show their beautiful blossoms to the Creator and pray with me. I see the animals in the distance, they too are asleep. I know this because they are walking with their heads hanging low. I need to awaken them so the new ones can be born and play. I need to awaken them so they can walk in a good way and pray to the Creator. I see the people of the world are also out there. They too are asleep. I know this because they are not chanting the songs of the heart. I need to awaken them so their hearts can speak to the Creator. Once I awaken the mineral world, the plant world, the animal world, then the people too will awaken. Then the Creator will hear our prayer and see me. One of the ways of looking at this awakening everything is also about animating, inspiring everything I do, whatever it is, whether it's from the mineral world or the plant world, as I love it and connect to it, it awakens, it becomes alive, it becomes vibrant. Walk in a good way. Walk tall and powerful as you are meant to be for times and times to come. This would be the way we'd end ceremonies. Walk in a good way. Walk tall and powerful as you're meant to be for times and times to come. Yes.